It was 4 months ago that Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, and Elon Musk were at the White House with massy, goofy-looking MAGA hats humiliating the United States. And 4 months later, Donald Trump was said to be all over the Epstein list by Elon Musk. And then Donald Trump said that Tucker Carlson is kooky. Yeah, yesterday Donald Trump said, somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that, quote, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, exclamation point, end quote. Donald Trump, maybe he and Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk are not wearing massive, gigantic MAGA hats together and humiliating the United States that way. But that photo was foreshadowing the humiliation to come, and yesterday Donald Trump disgraced the United States at the G7 summit. Donald Trump basically fled the G7 summit early before President Zelensky and other foreign leaders were set to arrive today. Yesterday, Donald Trump arrived at the G7 talking about how it should really be the G8 and saying that Putin is very mad at everybody. Donald Trump then started attacking American cities and Democratic areas. It got so humiliating that Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada had to invoke his status as the chair of the G7 to shut down a press conference involving himself and Donald Trump. Then later, Donald Trump held a press conference with Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom, where Donald Trump dropped on the floor a purported trade agreement with the United Kingdom, which Donald Trump and the UK claimed was actually negotiated, about a month ago, but now they claim they did it again. And then Donald Trump thought that Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK was actually part of the European Union. And he goes, look, everybody, I did a trade deal with the European Union. All right. You're like, Ben, you got to show me the receipts. You know by now, I don't just make claims like that. So let's go through it. Yes, Donald Trump posted yesterday, somebody explained to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Then Donald Trump writes, America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again, exclamation point, exclamation point. That was after Marjorie Taylor Greene said that America first means no new wars in the Middle East. And then all of MAGA, or a lot of MAGA, started warring with Donald Trump and calling him a neocon. Candace Owens, MAGA right-wing influencer, writes, Donald Trump just completely fractured his base. And he did it for the very neocons who minted the Never Trump movement. Truly unbelievable. Donald Trump also posted, Iran should have signed the, quote, deal. I'm not sure why that's in quotes. I told them to sign. What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, and this is in caps, everybody, so whoa. Very scary when Donald Trump writes in caps. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again, exclamation point. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran, exclamation point. You know what a reckless statement that is? There's 9 million people who are in Tehran. Are we going to war? Is that what you mean? You may want to address the nation and let people know what your plans are. Are American boots going to be on the ground? Is our Air Force currently helping Israel in these strikes against Iran? What's the level of American military involvement? How much is it going to cost? Because the latest nonpartisan analysis of your disastrous budget bill says it will add $10 trillion to the debt. That was the number I was predicting a few months ago. You now have MAGA Republican Congress member from Kentucky, Thomas Massie, and Democratic Congresswoman AOC from New York agreeing with the following. Massie says yesterday, this is not our war, but if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution. I'm introducing a bipartisan war powers resolution to prohibit our involvement. I invite all members of Congress to sponsor this resolution. AOC says, I am signing on. One of the things that we're learning as well is that there were massive disagreements and infighting between the United States and the other G7 nations. Donald Trump hates our allies. All the G7 nations who were there, whether it was France, whether it was Italy, whether it was Canada, you name it, they were like, we need to sign a statement calling for the de-escalation of war in the Middle East so we can figure out what the hell is happening and try to avoid an escalation of a regional or potential world war. Donald Trump refused to sign on to that statement. And then again, Donald Trump left the G7 early, saying he had to go back to the United States conveniently before President Zelensky arrived after Donald Trump was parroting Putin propaganda basically the entire time there. So let me go through what went down. So here is where Donald Trump drops the papers which purport to be a trade deal between the United States and the UK. He's got Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, standing by his side. Trump goes, we just signed it, but he can't hold the paper in his hand. It drops on the floor. If you look at the pages, it looks completely blank, like there's nothing on the paper that he's holding. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has to pick it up. Watch this.
We all know the great Prime Minister of the UK, and we just signed a document. This is, sorry about that. This is it.
A very important document.
Little windy out here. Give me that. We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union.
Okay, next, Donald Trump says that we signed a trade deal with the European Union while you have Prime Minister Keir Starmer from the UK, not part of the European Union, by his side. Play the clip.
We have our trade agreement with the European Union, and it's a fair deal for both. Going to produce a lot of jobs, a lot of income. And we have many other ones coming. But you see the level of enthusiasm is very good. But the relationship that we have is fantastic. So I just want to congratulate you.
Well, Donald, thank you very much. This now implements on car tariffs and aerospace, our really important agreement. And so this is a very good day for both of our countries, a real sign of strength. So thank you again, Donald. A really important day for both of us.
Great people.
Just again, look at some of these other photos here. Like, look how, I don't know what's the best way to describe Trump. Dumpy. Look how dumpy is that? He looks dumpy. He looks very dumpy right there. So then Donald Trump like leaves, like it almost reminded me of a weird reference. But like when there would be like sleepover parties as kids, and like you'd have like, you know, the kids in your grade would all like hang out, and then like someone wanted to leave, and then they'd have like their mommy and daddy pick them up, and then they go, well, I was having a lot of fun with everybody at the sleepover party, but I can't be here anymore, so I gotta go back home, everybody. I got more important things I gotta do, everybody. I'll see you later. I'm not really sure if that reference means anything to you, but that's what this reminded me of, when Donald Trump has all the other G7 leaders and they're looking at him like, yo, is this pathetic guy leaving? Is he leaving right now while we're all trying to deal with stuff? Watch this. Here, play this clip.
President, any statement on why you're leaving the G7 early for Washington?
Well, I have to be back. Very important. I want to just thank our great host. Fantastic job. Thank you in Canada. But you probably see what I see, and I have to be back as soon as I can. I'm going to have dinner with these wonderful leaders, and then I get on the plane. I have to be back early.
Have you talked to the National Security Council?
I loved it. I tell you, I loved it. And I think we got a lot done. Really a lot done. In fact, UK, we signed a big trade deal today, and we're working on others. But we had just a really great relationship with everybody, and it's really nice. I wish I could stay for tomorrow, but they understand.
Is there a reason,
big,
Mr. President,
big
you can't do your business?
Now, speaking of pathetic and cowardly behavior, MAGA Republican Senator Mike Lee, incredibly pathetic. So throughout all of the week, throughout all Sunday, when we learned about the horrific murder of the state representative from Minnesota, and the attempt, and her husband, and then the attempted assassination on the state senator of Minnesota and his wife, and that this MAGA Republican, this MAGA Trumper assassin psychopath had 70 Democrats on the list and had information about the No Kings protest because he was going to go and attack the No Kings protest. You had MAGA Republican Senator Mike Lee. He was like making fun of the murder. And he was basically saying that's what happens when you let Marxist leftists do things. And he was saying that the murderer was a Democrat, and he was like doing jokes about the murder. So here we have Democratic Senator Tina Smith chase down MAGA Republican Senator Mike Lee, who tweeted multiple times in recent days that Democrats were to blame for the Minnesota shootings. Watch her basically confront him. And she says that he seemed a little bit surprised to even be confronted by her in person. Yeah, tough guy behind a keyboard. Now look at the coward as he ran away from the cameras. Here, play this clip.
Could you tell us about your conversation with Senator Smith? Do you regret your tweet? Do you stand by the post that you made on X?
Have you had a productive conversation about that post? Was that what the senator wanted to speak to you about?
What did you think of the meeting you just came from?
Yesterday, we also learned that the Trump regime was tacoing a taco, as our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski puts it. Yep, Trump is reversing course on his reversal of course. Now he is telling agents, keep raiding farms, hotels, restaurants, Home Depot parking lots, factories. We need the deportation numbers to be higher. And even though Donald Trump previously said he would not be going after the farmers and he would not be going after restaurant workers, he's now changed course and he says, I am going after the restaurant workers. I want to play this clip as well. This clip's been circulating and I think it's important for you to see it because less than 90 days ago, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she spoke in Congress under oath, and she said that her assessment is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that the Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized a nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. So I think you should confront. Was she lying there? Here, play this clip.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
I think our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski put it best, though. Trump rolls into the G7 summit complaining about how mean they are to Putin. He trashes America on foreign soil. He confused the EU with the UK. He dropped papers on the ground. He trashed Tucker Carlson, accomplished nothing, then bailed early to escalate the war between Israel and Iran. Here's Donald Trump with Mark Carney earlier in the day where he said the G7 used to be the G8 and that Putin should really be a part of the G7. Play this clip.
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that that was a mistake because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8. And now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot.
So then Carney had enough and he was like, I'm exercising my discretion as the G7 chair and I'm stopping Trump from getting asked more questions. Play this clip.
All Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
That's it. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to exercise my role, if you will, as G7 chair since
We have a few more minutes with the president and his team, and then we actually have to start the meeting to address some of these big issues. So
Thank you.
merci.
Thank you, media. Let's go. Thank you. That's it. That's it. Thank you very much. Out. Go, guys. Out. Thank you. Katie, let's go. Out. They don't want to. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. President, are you seriously considering trying to out?
Let's go. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go.
Then finally, folks, as you may know, there's a big hearing today regarding Donald Trump federalizing the National Guards before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Here is, I think, a very powerful line from the Department of Justice's brief about Donald Trump unlawfully invoking 10 USC 12406 to federalize the National Guard. Here's what they say. Considered individually, defendant Donald Trump's legal arguments are meritless. Considered in the aggregate, they are terrifying. Defendant's interpretation of Section 12406 would empower the president to commandeer a state's National Guard based merely on evidence that some civilians opposed his authority, disobeyed his commands, or presented operational difficulties for civil law enforcement officials, and without any input or even notice to the governor. Courts would be powerless to enforce the limits Congress imposed on the president's exercise of that authority. We'll keep you posted with the ruling there, but Donald Trump clearly humiliating the United States all over today. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.